Hi there, welcome back to the channel. My name is Fred Macedo, and we are here for one more Gospel at Home. Before we start, I will ask Rosangela to make the initial prayer. Please, Rosangela.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Thank you, Rosangela. Tonight we're going to discuss the Allan Kardec's Spirits book. The theme selected is question 592, Animals and Human Beings. If we compare human beings with animals in relation to intelligence, it seems difficult to establish a line of demarcation because certain animals on this earth have an obvious superiority over certain humans. Can such a line of demarcation be established in a precise manner? Your philosophers are not in much agreement about this subject. Some would want for humans to be animals, and others for animals to be human. Both are wrong. Humans are beings apart, who sometimes sink very low, or who may sometimes ascend very high. In their physical nature, humans are like the animals and less well endowed than many of them. Nature has given the animals anything that humans are obligated to invent with their intelligence in order to provide for their own needs and self preservation. Their body is destroyed like that of the animals, that is certain. We all die, including the animals. But their spirit has a destiny that they alone can comprehend because they are alone, all are completely free. Poor humans, who debase yourselves more than wild animals. Don't you know how to distinguish yourselves from them? Recognize human beings through their ability to think about God. 593. Could we, Allan Kardec asks, could we say that animals act only through instinct? That again is a theory. It's quite true that instinct dominates most animals. But don't you see some that act from a determined will? It is because they have limited intelligence. Kardec make a note. One could not deny to certain animals the practice of complex actions that denote the will to act in a determined sense, beyond the instinct and according to circumstances. Therefore, there is in them a kind of intelligence. It's not all instinct, but in exercising it, they are concentrating it more on the means of satisfying their physical needs and providing for their self preservation. Among them, there is no creation, no improvement. Whatever may be the skill that we admire in their labors, That which they did not yesterday is the same as what they do today, neither better nor worse, according to constant and unvarying forms and proportions. Um, he's saying that the behavior of the most intelligent animals, they 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 do as they have a pattern, they have a standard of behavior. They always do the same things, even though we think there is some intelligence in that, but they are very different from us. Um, we have established intelligence. They are on the beginning of it. Of it. Kardec continue. Offspring, separated from their species, do not fail to build their nest in accordance with the same model without having been taught. If some animals are capable of a certain amount of learning, such intellectual development is always restricted within narrow limits and is due to human action on a flexible nature. I don't know the name of the monkey that escapes me now, that were trained to speak, to not to speak, to do a lot of communication by its hands. This monkey became famous, but this monkey could communicate when it was hungry, when it wanted to sleep, but uh, the the person who was with it could not ask it something that uh, it could not comprehend. So there is a limitation. They cannot make any progress by themselves, and when they do make progress, it's ephemeral and purely individual, because if abandoned to themselves, they quickly return to the limits traced out for them by nature. 594. Do animals have language? If you mean a language form of words and syllables, no. But if you mean a way of communicating amongst themselves, then yes. They say more things than you might suppose, but their language is limited to their needs as their thoughts. There are animals that possess voice. Aren't they deprived of language? They understand one another by other means. Don't you human beings use more than speech to communicate with one another? And mutes, what about them? Since animals are endowed with a life of relationships, they have means of warning each other and of expressing the sensations they experience. Do you think that fish do not understand each other? Human beings do not have the exclusive privilege of language, but the language of animals is instinctive and limited exclusively to the circle of their own needs and thoughts, while that of humans is perfectible and lends itself to all the conceptions of their intelligence. Kardec's note. Actually, fish like swallows, which migrate and mass obeying the lead, must have means of warning and understanding one another and grouping together. Perhaps having a sharper sight allows them to see the signs that they make to each other, or perhaps the water is a vehicle that transmits certain vibrations to them. Whatever the case may be, it's undeniable that they had the means available to understand one another in the same way as all animals deprived of voice performs activities in common. In light of this, must one wonder at spirits being able to communicate with one another without recourse to articulate speech? See number 282. 595. Do animals have free will? They are not simple machines, as you might suppose, but their freedom of action is limited to their needs and cannot be compared to human freedom. Since they are far less evolved than human beings, they do not have the same duties. Their freedom is restricted to the actions of the material life. 596. Where do certain animals get their aptitude to imitate human language? And why is this aptitude found more among birds than among apes, for example, whose body structure is more analogous to the human structure? The particular conformation of vocal organs aided by the instinct of imitation. Apes imitate gestures. Certain birds imitate the voice. 597. Since animals have an intelligence that gives them a certain freedom of action, is there in them a principle independent of matter? Yes, and it survives their body. Is this principle a soul similar to that of humans? It's a soul, if you would like. It depends on the meaning you attach to the world. It's less evolved than the humans. However, between the souls of animals and humans, there is a difference as there is between the human soul and God. 598. Does the animal soul retain its sorry, individuality and self-awareness after that? Yes. Its individuality, yes, but not its self-awareness. Its intelligent life remains in a latent state. 599. Can an animal soul choose the species in which it prefers to incarnate? No, it does not possess free will. 600. Since the animal soul survives its body, does it remain in an errant state like the human soul after that? It remains in a type of errant state because it's not united to a body, but it's not an errant spirit. The errant spirit is a being who thinks and acts on its own free will. Animal spirits do not have the same faculty. Self-awareness is what comprises the principal attribute of the human spirit. After its death, an animal soul is classified by the spirits in charge of doing so, and it is oh, sorry, utilized almost immediately. It's not given time to enter in relations with other creatures. So, when a animal's body die, its spirits is classified by other spirits, and uh, it reincarnates almost immediately. 601. Do animals follow a law of progress like humans? Yes, and that is why on higher worlds where humans are more advanced, The animals are also more advanced and possess more developed means of communication. However, they are always lower than humans and subject to them. They are their intelligent servants. Kardec's note: there is nothing extraordinary about this. Let us imagine that our more intelligent animals, such as a dog and an elephant and a horse, were endowed by a physical conformation appropriate for manual labor. What might they not under human direction? 602. Do animals progress by their will like human beings or by necessity? By necessity. That is why there is no expiation for them. They are not guilty of their behaviors because they don't have free will. 603. On highly evolved worlds, do the animals know about God? No. Human beings are gods to them, as spiritists used to be gods to humans. 604. Since the animals, even the perfected ones of the higher worlds, are always beneath humans, wouldn't this result in God having created intelligent beings perpetually condemned to inferiority? If so, wouldn't this seem to be in disagreement with the unity of design and progress discernible in all God's work? Everything in nature is linked together by ties that you cannot yet perceive. And the most apparently discrepant things have points of contact that humans will never manage to comprehend in their present state. Or we don't have the means to understand this. They may glimpse them through an effort of their intelligence, but it's only when that intelligence has reached its full development and frees itself from the prejudice of pride and ignorance that they will be able to see clearly into the works of God. Until then, their limited ideas will cause them to look at everything from a petty and limited point of view. Rest assured that God cannot be self contradictory and that everything in nature is harmonized through general laws that never deviate from the sublime wisdom of the Creator. We can't understand this. Then, intelligence is a common property, a point of contact between the souls of animals and humans. Yes, but animals only have the intelligence of material life. In humans, intelligence produces moral life. 605. If we consider all the points of contact between humans and animals, mightn't we believe that humans possess two souls? An animal soul and a spiritual soul? And that if they did not have the latter, they would live only as animals? In other words, isn't the animal a being similar to the human, minus the spiritual soul? If so, wouldn't it follow that the good and the bad instincts of humans will be the effect of the predominance of one or other of these two souls? No, humans do not have two souls, but the body has its instincts, which result from the sensations of the organs. There is nothing in humans except a dual nature, the animal nature and the spiritual nature. Through their body and instincts, they participate in the nature and instincts of animals. Through their soul, they participate in the nature of the spirits. Kardec pursues the matter. Thus, besides getting rid of its own imperfections, must the spirit also struggle against the increase of matter? Yes. The less evolved it is, the tighter are the bonds between the spirit and the matter. Can't you see that? No, humans do not have two souls. The soul is always one in each individual. The soul of animals and that of humans are so very different from each other that the soul of one cannot animate the body created for the another. So, like uh, uh, there are religions in I think India's religion that um thinks that we can we can be back in a body of an animal. This is not possible. If we are if we are already humans, we cannot be back to animals. But if humans do not possess an animal soul, whose passion would place it on the level of the animals, they nonetheless have an animal body. Our body is animal, which often drags them down to that level, for its body is an entity endowed with vitality and instincts, which are unintelligent and limited to self preservation. Kardec's note: when a spirit incarnates into a human body, it transits to it the intellectual and moral principle that places it on a higher order than the animals. The two natures in humans give two distinct sources to their passions. Some spring from the instincts of nature, others from the impurities of the incarnated spirits, which sympathize to a greater or lesser degree with the baseness of the animal appetites. In purifying itself, a spirit frees itself from the influence of matter little by little. Under such influence, it approaches the animals. Freed from such influence, it rises toward its true destiny. Uh, I don't know what question it is in the Spirit's book, but when Kardec asks the spirits, they say, "We are all created simple and ignorant. We don't know about many things, and then we we experience a lot of existence, like men's and women's, and then from this experience we are uh, making a distance of our animal instincts. And nowadays we know persons that are more like animals because they just want to fulfill their instincts. They want to have sex, they want to sleep, to eat, and uh, they don't want moral obligations. I think this is the synthesis. We are we are apart from the animals. We once in the past were animals, but when God, uh, when we evolved and 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 God made us humans, we start um, to have a new kind of soul, and once we evolve in the human ladder above, we approach the perfect spirits. Like Christ said, it's not that words, I have a limitation, but I will try. He said that we could do everything he done and more, meaning one day will be planetary Christ, like he is today, and he managed he have been managing the earth for 5 billion years, just when earth was created. And so he is the Christ for a long time. And I don't know how many years, how many billion years, but we will be one day a planetary rise, because we are always getting better over time. Some of us will evolve faster. Some of us will linger uh, with our instincts. It's, it's like a school. There are students that uh, make an effort to improve themselves, and there are others that don't. I think I think this is it. I will thank you for your patience, and I will ask Rosangela for our final prayer.
We thank the good spirits who have come to communicate with us and ask them to help us put into practice instruction. They have given us real hope they will ensure that each one of us at the end of this session is fortified in the practice of good and love for our neighbor. We also wish these lessons may be useful for our suffering, ignorant or vicious spirits who were able to attend this meeting and forum. We implore the mercy of God.
Thank you all, and until our next meeting.
Good evening.
Good evening.